All right. What is up? Looks like we wow. Looks like we are live. Um, for the reason you just saw, I'm kind of out of it. I'm kind of exhausted, and we're not gonna do something that long. Why did it save the? Hold on, I have to. I don't know why it didn't change the thumbnail. It's using the same thumbnail as it did yesterday, or as I used for the stream yesterday. But I, no, it looks like it's updated. Okay, that's weird. Okay, because it just showed me whatever. Well, we'll troubleshoot if it keeps being an issue. But today we're gonna go over Miyamoto Musashi, who is probably I want to say the best known samurai ever. I don't know if he's the best samurai ever, but that's the legend. Who knows? Who knows? All these things are like these are like stories that are like can they be verified? Can they not be verified? He's a legend and he wrote the Book of Five Rings and after he wrote the Book of Five Rings, he kind of like isolated himself for 16 years and then just wrote poetry. Very interesting life. Like you wouldn't think a swordsman would be so poetic, but really the whole essence of all of his writing is that I mastered swordsmanship through a manner that was somewhat spiritual and not of the traditional means. Because when you think of a fighter, you think of somebody that is very brutal, that is very aggressive and angry and they just attack, attack, attack. And you can find a certain parallel with certain fighters. Like I'm trying to think of a good example of somebody that's just they just go headlong into a fight. Like maybe Charles Oliveira, even though Oliveira he has some finesse to his style, but like he's gonna stand in the pocket and he's just gonna hit you. He's just gonna keep coming at you, and eventually he's going to either get knocked out or you're gonna get knocked out. Versus a George St. Pierre who kind of blurs the lines of what he's good at. He blurs the lines of what he's an expert at. And there's something very interesting in that. And essentially, that's what Miyamoto Musashi talks about in the book Five Rings. And we'll go into that. I can never say this guy's name, but I like this guy's channel and we go over the stuff a lot. I don't think we've gone over his Musashi video. I know we went over Musashi I want to say a year ago, but it was a different video and nobody here is the same and I'm gonna give a different take every time. So if I repeat the videos, I'm sorry, please let me know. But at a certain point, like there's only so many good things about like only so many good videos that we can go through to talk about of a certain
Musashi is one of the most legendary samurai.
and it sucks because YouTube's algorithm is like terrible for search. So like I might get a good video like 6 months down the line about something I looked up a while ago. But when I search something, it's just going to give me something that it thinks I want to see instead of what I actually searched. It's kind of frustrating.
And famed as Japan's greatest swordsman, undefeated in more than 60 duels. After
And again, it's like, is this real? Like maybe there's some documentation of it, but even that, it's like it's so old. It's like, can you even? It's kind of like Achilles. I think Achilles was a real person, but he's somewhat become legend. Well, maybe he's a bad example, but or like Hercules. Like, were these people ever really real people at one point? Probably, and then over time, their deeds got more and more and more fantastical to the point where it's like, all right, this person. I don't know if they were moving mountains, but they were probably a great.
he escaped death during the Battle of Sekigahara, Musashi became a ronin. Aside from being a swordsman, he was also a philosopher, artist, and well-learned Buddhist. Before he died, Musashi left us with 21 principles named Dokodo.
No, I think I might have this book somewhere. I feel like I bought it and I never read it. Ooh, maybe I don't know where it would be though. I'll look for it and I'll talk about it if I can find it. But I know I definitely have the Book of Five Rings. which is his most well-known work and probably why we know about him the most. And this is just like I'm sure it's in public domain. This is just like some random cover, and it's I mean not even that good of a version. It doesn't really split stuff up, but you get these books very cheap, and that's really what I like about old books is that you're not really like limited by like your funds that you can get at the time. Like even me sometimes I'm like, oh, I bought way too many books, and it's like I'm like, oh well, I can spare a few dollars here or there. That's what I like about older books. It's like I don't have to pay too much for like a singular idea. Like most books that I'm looking to buy, I really only want to get a few things from it, and it's like, is it worth $20 just to get like a paragraph or two? Is really how I see buying books now.
These are timeless rules that can inspire us today to live well. The majority, if not all of these rules, help us to establish one thing: focus. Focus is the quality of having a concentrated interest or activity on something. Needless to say,
And what I want you to understand about this is we don't think of focus in the way that people back in the day used to. When we say focus, we think we're just doing a task, but it's not even that. It's you're doing the task and you're aware of you're doing it. It sounds so stupid. But there's something very profound, and it's like you could be watching TV, but you're on your phone. You could be studying something, but you're listening to the music in your ear. It's like actually devoting yourself fully to it, actually being aware of what you're doing, actually being conscious of what you're doing. And it's really a muscle that your mind has that you need to train. And it's bad because I could do it really well in certain moments, but then my mind slips back to the old habits of going on social media or letting my mind wander aimlessly or watching TV or really just falling victim to instant gratification, falling victim to the things that are easy that I can use to distract myself instead of the things that are meaningful and purposeful that I can find in my day-to-day life. And really the golden nugget that you're going to find in any sort of these more Eastern practices is that your attention and your focus really determine everything else. If you could focus on something for just a few moments each day, you could become a master of it in no time. And it's how do we develop that skill? How do we develop that muscle? How do we re-engage ourselves in a productive manner? Because I promise you, like you've probably done something in recent times that you could have done in a much easier, much more proficient manner, but you didn't approach it in the right way. You didn't use your full capabilities. You didn't study. You didn't actually do the thing in the manner that you should have done it. And really what I'm trying to say is we do things so distracted that we have become incapable of doing things not distracted, is what I'm trying to say. I don't know how to put this into words.
focus was a crucial component in Musashi's life, or what he called the way, which is a life of ongoing practice.
Think of this as like Wu Wei, the idea of effortless action, the idea of inspired action, is how I like to think about it. And simply put, it's devoting yourself fully to what you're doing. So you might be working on a project, but really in the back of your mind, you're like, oh, it's Saturday today, but like, think you're at work and it's a Friday, and you're like, well, I'm doing this, but I'm looking forward to the weekend, and you're diverting your attention away from what you're actually doing. And what Musashi would really urge you to do is to put your focus fully into what you're doing. Put your focus fully into the current task at hand and lose yourself in that task and lose yourself in that effort. And through that, you will find what you're looking for.
His writings reveal that his lifestyle revolved around restraint, sacrifice, discipline, and not being swayed by pleasure. These virtues were all established by or in support of being able to focus. Especially when he spent time apart from society, Musashi was only concerned with perfecting his skill while aiming for enlightenment by the way of the sword.
So there's this idea that sort of, I think, makes Musashi's ideas important because you could read the book of the Rings and be like, all right, I'm not a fighter. I'm not going to learn how to use a sword. I don't really have to learn about battle and strategy and that sort of things. But what Musashi says is once you know the way, you see it in all things. And in his case, he's talking about swordsmanship. He's talking about his mastery of swordsmanship. But really, what he's saying is that when you master something and you really understand it, you get this spiritual essence of life that you can then apply to other things, that you can then understand and then be able to live by these principles. That through some sort of toil, through some sort of effort, you find exactly what you were meant to do. You find the purpose of life. You find the underpinning meaning and value of absolutely everything all at once.
This three-part series elaborates on the 21 principles from Musashi's Dokudo. The first part
Oh, okay,
explored the first
I, I, I didn't know he was doing it in this way. That's interesting. I'm assuming he was gonna.
seven
I
principles.
was just assuming he was gonna talk about the Book of Five Rings because that's the most popular thing. But this will be cool.
This second part will explore how to live a life of ultimate focus based on the next 7 principles. Please note, the elaborations in this video are based on existing philosophies, the author's interpretations and reasoning, and are intended to be an inspiration for present.
And the thing about Musashi's writings or the Tao Te Ching or Zen Buddhism or Buddhism in general is that it's sort of like the Bible and how it has a billion different interpretations for however many billion people read it. It's that it's a personal thing. It's a personal journey, but you can kind of gain some sort of experience from other people's interpretations, and there are very good interpretations that are worth your time, but most of these things you just have to spend time with these ideas. You kind of just have to experience them and notice them along the course of your journey, along the course of the path. And yeah, it's like this. It's like I can tell you the mistakes that you're going to make, and I can tell you not to make them. But until you make those mistakes, you're not going to learn for yourself. It's that sort of thing. It's that only life can teach you the lessons that you need to learn. I really can't show you.
Day life. 8. Never let yourself be saddened by a separation. Separation can take place in several ways. We can be separated from someone temporarily because of traveling.
There's there's something to that separation creates some sort of introspection. I'm looking for a word, but I can't find it. But what I'm trying to say is you don't know how good you have it until it's gone. So it's like it's really easy to get annoyed by somebody when you keep spending time with them, but when you haven't seen them for a very long time, it seems to me that the only feelings that remain of my friends or the people that I really haven't seen in a while are good things, and it's not the little things that bother me. And there's a certain necessity for separation. There's a certain necessity to remove yourself from this person and to be yourself because if you spend too much time with somebody, then you just become that person. And then that relationship's no longer interesting because why do you want to talk to yourself? Why would you want to talk to somebody that believes exactly the same things as you? That's just you're never going to learn. You're never going to grow. It's going to be completely boring. And there's this very interesting idea of loneliness and being okay with being alone that I think the Eastern mystics describe the best,
Relocation, or permanently
at least
because
from what
of
I've seen.
death. We can also become separated from certain objects, like personal items or money. For most of us, the separation from what we love leads to suffering. As we're attached to the object or person we're separated from, we experience an intense feeling of lack, as we believe that what's taken away from us belongs to us and is part of us. In Buddhism, this idea of possession is delusional. Many Buddhists would agree that we don't truly own anything outside of our.
There's like this idea, I don't know if it's just Buddhism, but like generally there's like this colloquial idea that your possessions possess you. And the more things you have, the more things you have pulling for your attention. And there's like a certain kind of reverence that you can have to accepting that you're alone, accepting that you're this, accepting that you're that. Like, have you ever sat with a person that can't be with their own thoughts and they try to force the conversation and it's the worst conversation you ever had versus you're friends with somebody and you can go long periods of silence and those are usually the most interesting people. Those are usually the people that are most okay with themselves. And there's this like weird idea. It's like there's a lot of people that I don't even know how to explain this, but when they're with people, they want to be alone. And when they're alone, they want to be with people. And it's this there's something off there. There's something misplaced there.
Our mental faculties. Even our bodies aren't our own, as we don't fully control them. Musashi, being a Ronin and a Buddhist, was probably aware of this delusion of possession, as well as the burden of attachment to objects and people. His way was one of solitude and practice, and therefore he couldn't afford to be
This is my haircut.
saddened by separations, because life is full of separations. All things come and go, whether it's people, stuff, or wealth. Especially for a Ronin who's
All things come and go. And when you kind of take this mindset to it too, it's like it's realistic, but there's an beauty to it because if you know things are impermanent, then it makes the time that you have with the people that you love more important. Whereas think of how many people that have loved ones that never told them they love them, that never felt the necessity to remind the people in their lives that you mean this to me. You mean this to me. Like I couldn't have done this without you. Because they think that they'll always be able to say it in the future. But the truth is one day everyone you know is going to leave you. And it's how do we make the most of it? And there's this certain it's like that idea that every man has two deaths. The first one is when he realizes he's going to die, and that it gives some sort of fear, anxiety, some sort of necessity to go out into the world and do things. It's there's something interesting to this idea.
traveling from place to place. Attachment to the people he met and the places he visited would have led to continuous grief. Instead, as a Ronin, he had to embrace the temporary nature of things, including the inevitable conclusion of life, which is death. In his book of 5 Rings, Musashi wrote that the way of the warrior is the resolute acceptance of
You can't accept life until you accept death. I don't know if this is a saying. I don't know if I just came up with that, but what I want you to think about is if you are so afraid of death, if you are so afraid of your own mortality, then you can't go out into the world and face your fears. You're going to hide in your home. You're going to hide and bury your head in the sand like an ostrich. But when you come to grips with the inevitability of death and that one day it's going to come, then you kind of have this idea of like, well, it's going to happen sooner or later, so I just need to face the things that I am avoiding. I need to go headlong into the storm. I need to, in some way, battle against this force because if I don't, then I will be defeated. You know, it's better to die on your sword than it is to, live a long life of fear and guilt and shame.
death. For a warrior, life is surrounded by death. The death of the people he slays, of the people that fight by his side, of the people he failed to protect, and of course the risk of being killed himself. Like no other, Musashi must have realized that death awaits us all. By being aware of this and accepting the impermanence of life, we'll have an easier time when we encounter it.
I said this last night, but there's a lot of people like if you want to see how poorly people deal with the idea of mortality, go to a funeral. And it seems to me that there's an element of grief that isn't just about that person, but an admission of that person's own mortality. And I might be reading too much into this, but there's certainly something there.
9. Resentment and complaint are appropriate, neither for oneself or others.
Resentment and complaint are appropriate neither for oneself or others. This is a very interesting. It's comparison is the thief of joy, that Teddy Roosevelt quote. And It's so true because to resent and complain about somebody else is to deny your own capabilities to change your own capabilities to make a difference. You maybe it's 99% that person's fault, but in 1% of the instance you could have made a little bit better of a choice and you could be looking at a completely different scenario. And to resent and to complain is also to deny your own capabilities to follow that other person's steps. Like Emerson has this idea of jealousy that to be jealous is to deny your greatest gift, which is your imagination, your ability to see what somebody else does and set yourself on a similar path. And in fact, if somebody did something, then that means you could do it better because that's just how history works. That's just how progress works, is that somebody sets a record. What is a record meant to do? It's meant to establish a new baseline, and every record is meant to be broken. So when you see somebody do something, don't be discouraged. You can do what they did, if not better. You can take the same set of steps, you can take the same circumstances and go about them in your life and find it. And it's the same thing for yourself too, because to resent yourself is to hate yourself. To complain about yourself is to complain about something that you can't change. You know, what good does it do to feel shame or guilt about the past? It really serves nothing except bring that same sort of emotion to the present. Bring that same state to the present. Whereas if you can get over your past, if you get over your mistakes that you made, then you can learn from them, then you can grow from them. You must absolve yourself of the things that you did so that in the future you won't be beholden to these things.
It's very common for people to spend insane amounts of time resenting and complaining about the world. The traps of resentment and complaint are very easy to fall into. For one with a critical eye and strong opinions on how life should be, there's always something to complain about. But when we find ourselves in a continuous
And then we can get even into Jungian psychology where in your complaints that you have about somebody is a layer of what you need to work on. There's, there's always a layer in the way in which you view the world, good or bad. So like something that really inspired me was like the qualities you like in your friends are qualities that you have in yourself because your entire perception is yourself pushed out. Is your personality, is your emotions, is your experience pushed out onto other people. So what you like about people is really what you like about yourself, and what you don't like about other people, there's something in there that you also struggle with. Maybe it's not direct, maybe it's indirect, but there's something there that you can work on. It's an interesting way of viewing things. And this is really how I like to view when I'm being resentful or when I'm criticizing. It's like, okay, I can sit here and complain about this person, but I mean, really, what good does it do for me? It really doesn't do much. So instead of sitting with these complaints and these emotions and this resentment, why don't I look to what I can change about myself? Why don't I purify myself before I cast the first stone? Let he who hath no sin cast the first stone. How dare you judge others before you judge yourself, because we're all imperfect. And it's such a that part of the Bible it's so important to understand, because if you don't understand this, then you're going to go your whole life pointing the finger and taking the blame away from you instead of changing what you can change, which is yourself. It's like the stoic idea of, you can't change anything but your reaction. You can't change the external world, but you can change your reaction to it.
state of resentment about the world, it means that we're focused on others and not on ourselves. For someone who is dedicated to a life of ongoing practice, spending time resenting and complaining about the world or one's own life is detrimental. The world is beyond our control. People will act in ways that don't comply with our ethics and values all the time. People
That's the thing. It's like no matter how good of a person you are, people are going to try to bring you down. In fact, the better person you are, the more opposition you're going to find. And it's like we can sit here all day and say it's not right to be criticized, not right to have people try to tear you down or this or that, or crabs in a barrel. It's not the right thing to do, but it's just the nature of things. And how do we deal with that? How do we move forward with that? How do we face these realities and don't be discouraged by it, because I truly think that the number one thing that holds people back is being discouraged by failure, being discouraged by a setback. And instead of seeing a setback as something we can move forward from, we see it as all the proof that we need to stop, all the proof we need to stop going forward. Uh, Give me a minute, I'll be right back. This is a good video because I was expecting it to be the Book of Five Rings, which there's like something deep in it, but it's like you really have to dig for it. But this is I didn't know he wrote 21 Principles to Live by. I really have to find the book. I know I have it somewhere. I'm pretty sure I have it. I need to find
Will behave foolishly, rudely, ungratefully. People will dislike us, try to interfere with our lives, treat us unjustly, try to take advantage of us. Furthermore, life isn't fair. We don't get equal shares of the pie. We aren't equally gifted, equally handsome, equally healthy. Trying to change this is a sincere ideal created by the human mind, but it's almost impossible to achieve, as we'll find nature
it. It's very reminiscent of Amor Fati, love your fate, love everything that happens to you.
working against us all the time. From a Buddhist point of view, we shouldn't spend too much time trying to change the world. And we should especially refrain from resenting what is. Instead, it's much wiser to focus on ourselves, live.
It's like I say this quote all the time, but it's really is one of the best quotes. Be the change you want to see in the world, is what Gandhi said. And what he's telling you to do is that you really can't tell other people what to do. You can't join a system and fix it from the inside. That's not how things work. It's that people have to be inspired by who you are. People have to be inspired by your image and your lifestyle. You know, it serves me nothing for me to tell other people what to do. You should be inspired by the things I say, the words I use, and the example I lead, that, oh, maybe there's a better way. Maybe I can do this and find this. Like, you're not really going to convert somebody to your way of seeing things unless they see it for themselves. Have you ever been in an argument and you feel like you're just going in circles, and then years later that person comes back to you and they're like, "Yeah, you're right." And what that is they saw exactly what you were trying to say, but they couldn't see through your explanation. They had to see through the world showing them. They had to see through their own eyes, through their own vision. And it's a difficult thing to understand. And this is something that, like, I feel like everyone starts to deal with when they start making a lot of progress in their life. It's like I can tell people in my life what they should be doing, how they should be doing things, but like, unless you actually want the help, unless you actually ask me, I'm not going to give it to you. I'm not going to show you the way. I'm not going to force you to see that there's a better way, because you're just not gonna you're just not gonna be receptive to it.
The best life we can, while being accepting of those who don't. Or as Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius put it, be tolerant with others and strict with yourself. 10.
That's a great way of putting it.
Don't let yourself be guided by the feeling of lust or love. In a previous video, I've explored the different types of love, with selfless love, called agape by the ancient Greeks, on one end, and selfish love, called eros, on the other end. Musashi seems to point to eros in this case, which is a form of love motivated by lustful desire, also known among Buddhists as romantic love.
That's interesting. Don't let yourself be guided by, and there's certainly something to it because, there's the difference between the person you love in your mind and the real person. This is gonna sound like very, very awful, but it's like the person that you have affection for is not the real person because you don't see the full image of somebody else. James Joyce, I think, does the best job of explaining this. It's in Dubliners. It's called The Dead, I think. And essentially the story is sorry, I know you guys aren't going to read James Joyce, so I'll just spoil it. But basically the it's semi-autobiographical as well. And this guy is lying in bed and his wife's telling him a story about how there was this boy that loved her at one point and the boy sat outside in the cold and died because he loved her. And this is a story that the guy had never heard, and he was married to this person for 20 years or whatever. I don't remember the time frame, but basically it was just showing that like there's parts of the people that we love the most that we'll never know about. And that a lot of times there's this false image. Like think about when you were interested in somebody, like go back to like one of your worst relationships or one of your worst forms of judgment and look like, oh, did I really love that person or did I love the idea of them? And like most failing relationships, most bad relationships, you like the idea of the person, or you like the idea of being in a relationship more than you actually like the person. And it's we kind of bend and blur the lines of reality in order for this image to fit. And there's certainly something to this. There's certainly something to being weary of your emotions and weary of these forces and these feelings because they tend to lie to us. They tend to make up things that aren't quite true, and it's not rational, it's not smart to rush headlong into something that might not be the best decision for you.
In many of today's cultures, we see that romantic love is elevated to the status of ultimate concern. This human experience is almost seen as divine and thus worthy of our pursuit and sacrifice. Musashi clearly wouldn't have endorsed the way we treat romantic.
What is this image? Why does his face look like that? Watch, somebody in the chat's gonna say,
Love today. This probably wasn't just because lust and love are so distracting and would have been harmful to his progress as a swordsman, but also because he was a Buddhist, and Buddhists don't buy this sacralization of romantic love. In fact, they are aware of the dangers of being guided by it.
there's something to this, but I don't want you to take it to the extreme level. My jujitsu coach has a really good saying: everything in moderation, even moderation. So it's like these rules are things to consider, but not things to live by. There's no rule without an exception. And I need to make that clear because I feel like this is something that on its face can be somewhat repulsive, but the sentiment is true, but maybe it's just something in translation is lost.
Like any other feeling, love and lust can overcome us, but we have the choice whether or not we engage with these feelings. Instead of letting ourselves be blindly guided by romance, it would be wiser not to forsake our ability to think rationally so we stay grounded and focused on our path. People tend to make very unwise decisions while enchanted by lust and love. From choices that affect their work or violate personal boundaries to violence and even murder.
I feel like we've all done stupid things in the name of love. There's like I can't even think of any stories, but I know in a week having thought about this that memory's just gonna pop into my head and I'm just gonna feel so ashamed of myself. I hate when that happens. It's like something's on the tip of your tongue And then weeks later, you get that memory and you remember like, why am I thinking about this? Oh yeah, because I made a stupid train of thought where I was like, what was the worst thing I ever did? I'm gonna have to relive it at some point, but I can't remember.
11. In all things have no preferences.
And all things have no preferences. This is tremendous. Go with the flow, man. Go with the flow. There's something there's something marvelous in this because Emerson has this idea that in every instance and every opportunity, there's both equal parts bad and equal parts good. And it's our ability to reframe and see the good in all things that allows us to move forward. Because the truth is like you get your dream job, but because you took that job, there's a job that might pay a little more, better benefits, closer to your home, better circumstances, you like your boss more. Like you can't get that job because you took this other one. You miss out on an opportunity because you took this one. And it's the same thing. You don't get a job. You thought it was tremendous, but that means that you're now open for more opportunities. And something different is going to come along and it might be better for you. It's like when we don't have preferences to things, when we don't have expectations to things, then we can see things for what they really are. And this idealized goal or dream that we have really isn't all it's cracked up to be. You know, in your mind it's great, but in reality it's never quite as good. You know, when you get to the mountaintop, you realize that it's not about the destination, it's about the journey.
The problem with preferences is that we create a dependency when it comes to the state of the outside world. When we come across something that we prefer, we're happy. But when we incur something that we don't prefer or even dislike, we're disappointed. As we don't have anything to say about what the environment presents to us, by having preferences, we'll give outside circumstances the power over our mood. Our equanimity.
I think you're putting expectations on the world. You're trying to make things in a set way, trying to make circumstances perfect. And nothing is ever going to be perfect. There's no such thing as perfect timing. There's no such thing as the perfect opportunity.
Will depend on whether or not the circumstances are preferable. This is kind of an inferior way to go about life. Musashi encountered many different people, objects and situations, but had to keep a tranquil mind so he wouldn't
Just realize this face. This is such a funny face.
stray from his path. Strong preferences would have been harmful to his practice. So it's wise to keep our preferences in check and instead embrace.
And when you have strong preferences or strong bias, then you're going to tend to a certain decision or a certain direction. And it's like the death of Socrates or the trial of Socrates, whatever you want to call it, Plato's Apology, where basically Socrates is called the smartest man because he knows what he doesn't know. And really what this means is he doesn't purport to know things that are beyond his understanding. He takes an open mind to every scenario. He's able to evaluate things in each and every instance. It's sort of like Nietzsche's idea of all morality is contradictory. That there's always going to be an exception to the rule. There's going always going to be an instance that you disagree with. It's like people talk about free speech, but then they'll talk about like, oh, but you can't burn the flag. It's like that's free speech. You know what I mean? It's like you can't be absolute in anything because if you're absolute in anything, then you're hypocritical, and that's essentially what this is saying. It's that when we allow our bias to cloud our better judgment, then maybe we're right 99% of the time, but we're going to be wrong that one time, and that's the importance of this.
Embrace whatever fate overcomes us and make the best out of it. This way, we can never go wrong, and thus the quality of our focus remains independent of the result. 12. Be indifferent to where you live. As a Ronin, Musashi wandered over Japan, staying in many
This is interesting. Staying in different places from castle to
different
cave.
places, from castles to caves. But regardless of where he lived, his way remained the center of his life.
And think it's like if you can't be happy with where you are, or it's not even happiness, if you can't be content with what you have right now, you're going to be able to be content. Because regardless of where you're living right now, if you can't at least say, like, I'm alive, it's okay, I'm safe, I have this, I have that. Like, when you do get that mansion, when you do have that house of your dreams, then you're going to see an even better house. And you're going to be like, oh, why can't I get this? Why can't I get that? Like, if the circumstances determine your mood, then you will forever be searching for circumstances. But when you determine your mood, you will forever determine your mood. Very important distinction.
People nowadays put great emphasis on their living environment. They care a lot about their homes, the neighborhood they live in, the kind of furniture they possess. But when we're too attached to having certain living conditions, we'll get anxious when these conditions are threatened. When our living situation is truly unsafe, it's of course no luxury to abandon that place. But oftentimes, it's simple dissatisfaction with current circumstances that make
This idea of you don't own your attachments own you, and that your decisions are dictated by I have this mortgage, or I have this, I have to do this for this. It takes away some of your freedom. It takes away some of your ability to just get up and go one day.
makes people look for another home. Some people are quickly bored and unhappy with their current home and believe that moving will take away this dissatisfaction. Unfortunately, the sense of fulfillment that follows after moving into a new place
Why is she like so? Why is she having like a religious experience touching whatever this is?
is only temporary, because wherever we go, we
She's like overacting this stock video.
always take ourselves with us. Satisfaction and dissatisfaction happen within.
It's like that one the one video, I don't remember what show it is, but there's like an extra and he's doing something like really weird, like he's like over exaggerating whatever he had to do.
Not
I wish I
outside.
remembered this so I could pull it
At
up.
the end of the day, it
Somebody
doesn't
knows what I'm
matter where
saying.
we live if we're content with ourselves. By being content with our homes, no matter how simple and small, we'll have one less thing to worry about and are more likely to stay focused on our purpose. 13. Do not pursue the taste of good food.
There's something very important to this because like the best I ever feel when I'm eating the most simple things. Like today, or actually last night, I literally couldn't sleep because my stomach was bothering me so much. And literally all I've eaten today is lemon juice, fruit, and celery. And my stomach completely went like, you know what I mean? It's the simple things that really get the most bang for your buck. Like there's a million people online that can sell you. I don't know if he's taking this literally or if he's taking this in a spiritual sense, but the analogy is gonna be the same. But there's people that will charge you thousands and thousands of dollars for like this diet program and this and that. But like you see it most consistently that the people that look the best are the people that are in the best overall health are the people that just eat simply. You know, protein, grain, vegetables, simple foods. They don't have the processed stuff. They don't have things that have all these sorts of spices and all sorts of fancy way of cooking it, fried food, all that kind of stuff. Like the more simple your diet, the more natural and healthy you'll be.
Many, if not most people, indulge in the pleasure of the tongue by enjoying a good meal. Some spend long evenings wining and dining, consuming drink after drink and course after course. But foodies, beware. This behavior has its downsides. Miyamoto Musashi discourages the pursuit of good food. His exact reasons for this aren't known, but when we look at what other philosophers
I don't know how to quite explain it, but it's the idea of you can't be hungry with a full stomach. And when you have the luxuries, when you have good food around you, when you have, endless indulgences, it's too easy to get complacent. It's too easy to forget what got you to the dance. Think about like UFC fighters. There's a lot of UFC fighters that the moment they get the belt, they immediately lose it. And it's because their end goal was to somehow work their way up to be a world champion. And now that they are, they're facing somebody with that same fire, with that same passion, with that same motivation. And now that they got to the mountaintop, they're like, okay, what do I do now? They don't have the same passion, the same fire that brought them to the dance, and because of that, they lose their edge. Maybe they win a few times, but they're not as ferocious as they once were. They're using skill instead of fire. They're using skill instead of passion, and their decline is going to be very fast. You see with a lot of fighters too, after they lose their belt, their careers kind of go off a cliff because they don't want to take that same intensity, don't want to sacrifice as much time and effort and energy. They're successful, and because of that, they're not willing to build up in the same way, and they have a bunch of losses towards the end of the career. It's not even so much age. The age is a factor, but it's also the hunger, the necessity to continue to fight, the necessity to continue to be good. Volkanovski is a really good example because what he lost 3 times in a row, and now he looks just as good as ever. And it's like that was somebody that was willing to build themselves back up from nothing. That was somebody who actually loves doing it. That's somebody that, kept the fire going and wanted to defy the odds. And he had a new battle to fight. He had a new thing to fight. He had people that was saying he was washed up, and now his whole mission is to show that he's not washed up and that those losses were just a fluke. Like it's all about finding that fire, and if you have too much good in front of you, then it's too difficult to put yourself in the cold. It's too difficult to do the road work. What's up, Lori Ball? Dude, where have you been? I'm literally playing this video because you said you didn't know who Musashi was and you show up late. That's crazy. No, I'm just messing with you.
Had to say about this, we might get an idea. The ancient Stoics, for example, were also concerned about food. They encouraged people to eat simply.
There's also something about somebody is going to see this years later and be like, well, he said this, he's an idiot. There's your stomach where I think your stomach dissolves through acids. So if there's different foods, then there's different acidities that have to dissolve the food to make use of it. So the more simple the food, the easier it is for your stomach to use those components. Where the more complex, the more things that you combine, the more difficult it is. Not saying that you can't, but it's just think if we're talking about optimization, it's you eat all the same type of food that's very simple. So it's, you know what I mean? Going to take a shower so you can't respond. That's crazy. I can't believe you.
Founder of Stoicism, Zeno of Citium, observed that when people get used to eating fancy, expensive meals, they stop appreciating the simple foods. When our appetites become oversaturated, we'll only crave more extravagant and stimulating ways to satisfy the pleasure of eating. In moderate
Okay, so this is kind of what I was just saying is that you lose your fire. It's too easy to, you know, indulge in the luxury, and you forget about everything that you did to get you to where you wanted to go.
eating habits could very well turn into gluttony, which leads to
Same thing with like I'm feeling the same kind of thing with the gym right now. It's like I don't have to work as hard to keep the same strength, but I'm like somewhat plateauing because I'm not pushing as hard as I used to. And I look back at how hard I used to go in the gym, and I'm like, I don't even know how to get to that same intensity. I don't even know how to get to that same level where I was like pushing myself in such a way. And it's like I've gotten very complacent, and it's in some ways like very frustrating because it's like you're not being all that you can be.
health problems. We would say that a glutton enjoys and appreciates food, while the opposite might be the case. Voracious eaters and drinkers usually don't take time to eat mindfully and with an appreciation for the dish in front of them. Instead, they compulsively consume as much as possible to be temporarily relieved from the pain of food cravings. What we could do instead is eat mindfully and in limited amounts and train ourselves to not give in to cravings. By doing so, we'll be less attached to taste and our
Damn, I was like on the borderline of like getting serious about my diet again, and I think this is gonna make me do it.
cravings for food will weaken, so we're less likely to overeat. At the end of the day, the purpose of eating is nutrition, as we need fuel to live and thrive. 14. Do not hold on to possessions you no longer need.
This is a very important one too, because it's I think you need to be able to grow, to change, to adapt to life, and that's how you become well adjusted. I don't know if I should even use that term well adjusted, because when people talk about well adjusted, it's just are you obedient? I don't necessarily want to preach obedience. I don't think that's a noble virtue or anything that's important at all. As so Walt Whitman said, uh, resist much, obey little is I think that should be your life motto. But again, it's the idea of your possessions own you. You have to upkeep these possessions. You have to make X amount of dollars so that you can pay your mortgage and pay your car loan and this and that. And it's like we put ourselves into debt and lose our freedom for the sake of appearances. And it's sort of that all things are changing. This too shall pass, and it's very important to not cling on to things that no longer serve us. If you don't really get along with your friends anymore, if you don't really have any common interests with them anymore, it's not that you should push them aside, but it's just you don't have to do the same things that you used to do. And this is something I struggled with for a very long time. It's like I was sort of kind of transitioning out of the old version of myself, and I just my friends just stopped reaching out to me because I just didn't want to do the same things we used to do. I didn't have the same interest anymore, and it was something I just kind of had to come to terms with. It's that if they're really my friends, they're gonna be friends with me regardless of if I want to do the same old bad habits that they are still doing. And it's true because the people that weren't real friends stopped contacting me, and the people that were still contact me. And it's there's something very powerful.
It seems like Musashi already knew the benefits of a minimalist lifestyle. His life as a ronin didn't lend itself to having possessions. Traveling Japan, staying in different places, fighting duels, perfecting his skill, possessions would only have been a
Seems like
burden.
such a cool life.
Besides his two swords, he only needed
Aside from like the fact that you could die at any moment, but aside from that, it's cool.
the basics to survive and practice. Some people tend to collect possessions as if the accumulation of material goods increases their
It's also like the thing of like what's that show? Hoarders. That's like one of the saddest shows. It's like on its face, it seems like it'd be funny because like these people, their houses are just full of clutter and they like freak out when you try to throw out like a newspaper from 30 years ago. But like most of the people, like they're stuck in that mindset because of some sort of trauma, some sort of event that happened in them, whether they were abandoned as a child or they were poor as a child, so they don't like throwing anything out because they try to make use of everything. There's something very sad in it, and it's like the extent of it too is also horrific. But we kind of have to understand that the possessions we have possess us. That the more things that you point to as what makes you up, the less of you actually have. Think of I can't remember who said it, but somebody said something along the lines of how poor is the person that only has money? How poor is the person that only has things and possessions? Maybe that's me that said that. Who knows? I feel like it's a colloquial saying though. I don't know. I'm not gonna take credit for it.
happiness. This
I
could be
remember
the
writing it
case for a
somewhere.
while, but mostly it only creates a hunger for more. Eventually, the more we own, the more weight we carry on our shoulders until we become servants of our possessions instead of the other way around. Clinging to our belongings as well as the pursuit for more creates anxiety, the fear of losing what we have and the fear of not getting what we want. But when we have a higher purpose and are able to achieve higher levels of happiness,
And I really want to reiterate this idea is that things aren't gonna make you happy. Only you're gonna make you happy. Like even if the goal is to get a certain house or get a certain thing, like what's gonna feel better is the actual things that you had to do to get that. Really what I'm saying is if you win the lottery in a year versus if you work and build a business and in that same year you get the same amount of money, building the business is going to feel better. It's the journey. It's the trial and error. It's the alchemical process of your individuation that is going to make or break whether you enjoy that accomplishment.
happiness. There's no point in chasing all these material possessions anymore. In Buddhism, when one finds contentment in stillness, without needing entertainment like television or music, chasing possessions doesn't make much sense. What it all comes down to is the ability to travel light, like a Ronin, so we can focus on what matters.
I think this is like Walden. Henry David Thoreau had this cathartic experience of when he broke his life down to the bare minimum of things, he was able to enjoy his life at such a profound level that he never wanted to go back. That if you have bare necessity, then
At
you
the age
have everything that you need. All right, so we're gonna go through this other video too, but I'll be back in a second. All right. I'm not sure if this is. Oh, this is part three. Okay, we'll do.
age of 15, Miyamoto Musashi went on Mushashugyo, which means warrior's pilgrimage. During this time of his life, he traveled the land practicing his skills independently and engaged in a series of duels. After he received Ronin status, he encountered the most challenging opponent he ever faced, Sasaki Kojiro, and killed him. After this event,
I feel like I want to get a biography of this guy. I feel like that'd be. I'm not interested at all in biographies, but this would be one that would be an exception. So most of the time, like in a biography, they don't really tell the real stuff because it's like they still care about their image and it doesn't really get to the matter of things. And there's a lot of stuff that they leave out. So I feel like you can learn more about an author or writer by the sort of unconscious hints they leave in their fiction.
he renounced doing lethal duels. He eventually retired to a cave, where he wrote down his knowledge and wisdom for later generations. Musashi's written works expand on the path of the warrior, which is the samurai way of discipline, focus, restraint, and honor. The path of the warrior is governed by moral and ethical codes that are commonly referred to as Bushido. Shortly before he died, Musashi compiled 21 principles on how a warrior should live.
Skip through this to get to the. You're back? Wow, it took you that long.
15. Do not act following customary beliefs.
Do not act following customary beliefs.
When we look at human
Oh, okay. I was gonna say
behavior,
that
we
way
see
of
the
saying it sounded
characteristics
weird.
of a herd animal. Many people
I think it's okay to follow things like you're never really going to be completely against custom. You follow the law. Like I see myself as an absolute nonconformist, but I don't break any rules. So in fact, I'm a conformist in a certain way. You would like to eventually retire to a cave. Yeah, I feel like that'd be cool in some ways. So in other ways, it wouldn't. Um, but I think it's important to evaluate the norms and evaluate the things that you're following. I think it's important to not be unconscious in any of the habits you do and not just go along to get along.
slavishly follow the norm, not necessarily because it's the best thing to do, but because everyone does it. Musashi was aware of the dangers of blind obedience and probably experienced the unskillfulness of leaders in his time. These could be the leaders of a so-called Koryu, which is a Japanese school of traditional arts, but also politicians and even the emperor himself. When we carelessly follow customary beliefs, we throw away our common sense, rational
It's it's almost like Emerson says, like, to be yourself in a world that seeks conformity is the greatest of
thinking
achievements.
capacity, and in some cases our morality in the process. Something being the norm doesn't mean that it isn't evil. We can find countless examples of this in history, in which people collectively engage in evil, convinced that what they do is somehow justifiable. The events during the Second World War
It's always we were just following orders. It's that excuse, but at any point you could have said no. It's always a stepping stone. It's like, well, why don't you just do this? And then next time it's something worse, and then next time it's something worse. And it's always incrementally selling your soul. It's never you never sign that contract and go, okay, I'm completely gonna jump headfirst into the deep end. No, it's you do something small that's against what you want, and then it's bigger and bigger and bigger, and next thing you know, you forget who you are. And that's the really important thing to notice about this is that in our little acts of defiance, we save ourselves. In resisting even the most minuscule things, we gain back our freedom.
illustrate that people who blindly follow the dominant narrative are capable of doing horrifying things. Another example is the general attitude towards drinking in Western culture. While the use of narcotics is frowned upon, drinking alcohol is institutionalized and considered acceptable, fun, and social.
It's weird because now, like, there's all these studies coming out. I don't know if they're studies or just reports, but it seems like a lot of people are drinking less and less. Well, not doing drugs less and less, but they're drinking less and less, which is hopefully.
Even though its effects can be as destructive, if not even more, as using narcotics. It's so normalized that it's the only drug that we have to justify not taking, even when alcohol consumption contributes to approximately 3 million deaths each year, according to the
It is so weird how it's like, I don't do drugs, I just drink. Like, you know what I mean? It's like it's just as destructive in some ways. It's so weird how like acceptable it is.
World Health Organization. Hence, customary beliefs aren't always the best guidelines. Musashi, who has lived as a ronin as well as a hermit, spent significant amounts of time separated from society and its norms. One of the benefits of such solitude is that it shields us from outside influences and lets us watch the world from a distance.
Think of like Gurdjieff's idea of self-remembering or becoming aware of yourself and self-observation. It's like noticing the things that you do that you just don't even think about. Like why do you go on your phone and check the news? Why do you go on your phone and check social media? Why are you conforming? Why are you acting as if what some random person says about some unrelated thing to you matters and affects your life? It's very very weird when we start looking at things in this manner and start analyzing them. And
This makes it easier to independently decide what's beneficial to our lives and what isn't. 16. Do not collect weapons or practice with weapons beyond what is useful. Miyamoto Musashi carried a long and a short sword, not because he wanted to show off his weaponry, but because he was
think about it, the more things you collect, the less you can use them. And it's like there's this idea in jujitsu. It's like a lot of people go online and get all these moves from the internet, but because they have so many moves, they can't even do the basic things. And it's really the best people at jujitsu. It's the same thing as fighting. The best people at jujitsu are the people that get the basics down and have a few really, really good moves. Like if you look at the top coach, I guess you would say he's the top coach, John Danaher. He only teaches like a handful of submissions. He only teaches a handful of finishes because that's going to be the bulk majority of the things that you actually get. Like if you look at the top submissions in either jiu-jitsu or UFC, it's rear naked choke, guillotine, armbar. Like heel hooks are you hear about a heel hook finish happening in UFC because it happens so rarely, whereas there's a rear naked choke on every single card. And in fact, it's the most effective and the most useful submission to use. It's understanding that it serves you no benefit to learn something that isn't going to be that applicable. Gaining some niche talent and some niche weapon or some niche tool is not really going to be something that is useful to you. It's even like if you have a lot of tasks to do, why are you worrying about something such as checking your email or doing something stupid? Like, why don't you take the most bang for your buck? Why don't you do the largest thing that's going to give you the largest reprieve from stress? And instead, we're worrying about everything all at once and we're trying to spread ourselves too thin. And, these ideas are very fascinating because you could take them in a literal sense or you could take them in a very sort of spiritual sense, I guess we would say.
Was skilled in fighting with two swords, and carrying two swords was the way of the warrior. In the Book of Five Rings, Musashi explains that every weapon has unique characteristics. The companion sword, for example, is preferable in confined spaces or when you're close to your opponent, as opposed to spears and halberds that are best used on the battlefield. So even though there's a wide range of choices and functionalities when it comes to weaponry, Musashi advises us not to collect or practice with weapons beyond what's useful.
Like if you try to become a master at all things, you fail to master anything.
We can see this as a metaphor for everyday life. One of the traps that many ambitious people fall into is that they don't stick with the essentials that get the job done. They engage in unnecessary activities, make unnecessary investments, spend unnecessary amounts of time networking with people without making any significant
I hate networking pisses me off so much. Whenever somebody says networking to me, I disregard anything else they have to say. Genuinely, it's like if you like if you ever go to like a networking event or any sort of that, it's like it's the least interesting conversation you could ever have, and it's always like, well, I did this and I got X amount of return on this, and it's like it's genuinely like I don't really believe in NPCs like that, but like I think it's the most NPC behavior.
progress. The inability to
If you
clearly
if you want to see Gurdjieff's idea of man is a machine, go to a networking seminar.
define what we need to achieve our goals and stick with doing what needs to be done is a recipe for failure. Sometimes this involves ruthlessly cutting out the elements that, despite their inherent value and usefulness, are useless in the context of our pursuit. However, Musashi also argues that we shouldn't get too attached to one particular way or method either. The samurai practiced with a variety of weapons, from swords to sticks, and
It's like a fine line too. It's like become a master at things and understand essential nature of things, but don't pigeonhole it. Like think of a fighter who's trying to force their biggest weapon. It in some way exposes you. If I'm going for an armbar and I'm trying too hard for the armbar and I forget I can go for a triangle or I forget I can hold a better position and maybe tire this person out from a mounted position. Like I'm not using my faculties to the best of my ability. I'm not using my skills to the best of the ability because I'm trying to force something. Whenever you try to force something, whenever you try to make something happen and it's against it's having resistance and you're going to expose yourself to some form of other sort of counterattack.
knew the abilities and characteristics of each weapon they used, which made them flexible fighters that could be deployed in different kinds of battles. I quote, "You should not have a favorite weapon. To become over-familiar with one weapon is as much a fault as not knowing it sufficiently well. You should not copy others, but use weapons which you can handle properly. It is
Yeah, I think this is just reiterating what I was just trying to say in a much simpler way.
bad for commanders and troops to have likes and dislikes. These are things you must learn thoroughly." End quote. So, being successful is a delicate process, and Musashi seems to point to the golden middle path between having a lack of focus and being too fixated.
Think you're walking on a scale, or you're standing on a scale. If you are in the middle, it's not going to tip one way or the other. And when it tips, any form of imbalance is going to be something that can be taken advantage of, something that will make it difficult for you to recover. But if you're standing in the middle of the scale, then in no way can you be subject to any form of imbalance.
And attached to one thing. 17. Do not fear death. The awareness of death was an essential part of being.
This is something that we don't necessarily think about, but what I want you to understand is if you go your entire life with fear, then you'll go your entire life not living because there's a certain necessity for danger. There's a certain necessity for suffering. There's a certain necessity to go into the world and fail and try and do things that are scary because through the other side of this, there's some form of purpose. There's nothing in this world that will be given to you easily that matters. If something matters, if something is meaningful, then it takes some sort of sacrifice. There's no such thing as a free lunch. There's nothing in this world that you don't have some sort of sacrifice in order to gain.
Being a samurai, students of the sword were trained to fight duels to the death. By being subjugated to relentless practice, they were made ready to fight battles and to be routinely faced with death. Generally speaking, Musashi stated, the way of the warrior is the resolute acceptance of death. End quote. Truly accepting death means not fearing death. And when we don't fear death, we won't give ground when our lives are threatened in battle. Thus, on the battlefield or in a duel, the acceptance of death.
And again, think of how many people like baby their lives. They put the nice soft padded corners of their life. They don't face things that are difficult, challenge themselves. They don't push themselves beyond their comfort zone. And to not push yourself beyond your comfort zone is to already have died. That's the way I view it.
Is empowering. But how about everyday life? Even though most of us are probably less prone to getting our skulls crushed by a long sword compared to those who lived in 17th century Japan, death is still lurking in the shadows everywhere we go. Life isn't a fairy tale. We all die, and we could die anytime. Yet many of us let the fear of the inevitable generate unnecessary anxiety. This is unfortunate because as long as we're still alive, we're not dead. So in no way it hinders us. But when we're dead, we're not alive, and we simply don't know what it's like, so we cannot judge whether or not it's a bad thing to die.
It's a very stoic idea. It's like you don't even know what death is, so why are you afraid of it? Who said that? I think it was Marcus Aurelius said something like that.
Maybe death is the portal to something much more enjoyable than
It's interesting how there's a lot of carryover between Stoicism and Taoism and Buddhism and Musashi's sort of way of looking at
life.
things.
Maybe not. But if death means simply the absence of life, we're at least liberated from all of life's sufferings. In short, it's pointless to worry about death because we don't know what it is. 18. Do not seek to possess either goods or fiefs for your old age. It may be clear by now that Musashi was a minimalist. He lived for honor, victory.
I think it's this I don't know how I'm going to begin to explain this. Think of how many people that are like, "Oh, I can't do this because of my career. I can't chase my passion because I need the security of this job. I need this." Or think of how many people were complicit with the Epstein files because they were afraid that their career would be sacrificed or that they would lose their pension or some sort of thing. It's like when you live your life in fear of security, then you fail to be authentic. And it's something that like if you want this nonsense to stop, if you want these people to actually be punished, then you have to stop going along with their system. You have to stop fearing the retribution of, oh, I can't have a career or I can't have this. I'd rather not have a career than live in a world where people are complicit with the worst things ever. And until people start having this sort of attitude to things, things won't change. And what I'm trying to say is Stop going along with the bullshit. Stop stop like being afraid of your security for the sake of your soul. Your soul is worth more than anything else. And when you're complicit with these sorts of things, it's again, I would rather not be able to make money or this or that than live in a world that is so evil and haunting. We have to stop going along with these things.
perfecting his skill and contributing to humanity by sharing his wisdom. He fought duel after duel, knowing that he could die at the sword of his opponent. He tells us not to seek to possess either goods or fiefs for old age.
That guy's
In
definitely
the
going to the
modern day,
casino
this
dressed
could
like that.
translate to sacrificing our time and energy now in exchange for possessions, money, and investments that we can enjoy when we're old. He doesn't say that we shouldn't be concerned with old age at all. From learning about his life, I would say that Musashi, despite repeatedly having walked on the edge between life and death, was quite concerned with the future, including the possibility of longevity. Otherwise, he wouldn't have cared about honor or leaving a legacy. So, to find a deeper meaning behind this
I don't know if that because you care about honor because you're living in the current moment, and if you don't have honor, then respects your word. If nobody respects your word, then there's no reason to keep going. Because if nobody can trust the things you say, then you can't trust yourself. It's essentially what it
lesson, we may want to turn to Buddhism again for philosophical substance. The Buddha isn't against acquiring wealth, as long as we acquire it in wholesome ways and use it for good. But running after wealth takes a lot of effort and can exhaust us and even destroy our health and overall well-being. So even though there's nothing wrong with wealth, we may ask
also like
ourselves,
don't have a backup plan because if you have a backup plan, then you always have a cop out. You always have some sort of cope. You always have something to fall back on. And oh, is this I think this is Sun Tzu. It's don't put your enemy on death ground. Don't put your enemies back against the wall because if you do, then they're going to fight more ferociously than you can begin to imagine. And it's kind of that too.
if achieving
That your safety and security is going to be your downfall.
it is the best pursuit available. Instead, we might want to invest our lives in developing the mind. In Musashi's case, this pursuit was embodied by the perfection of his swordsmanship. But there are other ways available that could potentially be far more fulfilling as well as reliable than the accumulation of wealth. Instead of trying to enter old age as rich as possible, a Buddhist might focus on developing a sense of contentment with the present moment instead.
I don't know what he's getting
Because
at,
if
but
we can be content with little, we can retire with a small pension. 19. Respect Buddha and the gods without counting on their help. Following Buddha as a spiritual teacher or believing in God or other deities doesn't mean that we aren't responsible for our own
it's kind of like that thing of like every athlete after they win, they're like, I need to give this to the grace of God. And it's like, I was praying for, I was watching this TV show. It's Friday Night Lights, and like one of the like boosters was like, I'm praying that we can win. It's like, it's weird how there's this like reliance on that sort of thing. It's like, I don't know. I think Emerson put this best, and it's something along the lines of like, when you go out to pray, it removes your sort of ability to do things for yourself. And I understand the idea of pride and this or that, but it's like, shouldn't your life be full of going out and living by the tenets instead of asking for something? That shouldn't you be rewarded by living a good life and living like Christ instead of being reliant on prayer?
lives. There are many religious and philosophical views on why
It's not
we
that simple,
exist on
but
this planet. Some say that we're here to serve God or multiple gods. Others say that our lives are nothing more than a cosmic joke and that our existence is entirely pointless. Some claim that the course of
oh,
our
we
lives
pulled
is
up
written
Kangaroo
in the
for that.
stars. Others claim that we have free will and that our lives are not predetermined. Whatever the truth might be, we're still confined to what our senses perceive. When we look at the nature of human existence from our own viewpoint, we see that we do have agency. Moreover, we're responsible for what we do and don't do. Now, what fortune gives us is beyond our control, but we do control how we handle what fortune, or God for that matter, presents to us. This human ability to choose is an inherent part of most. 20. You may abandon your own body, but you must preserve your honor. The way of
It's better to have honor than to be alive. And again, it gets back to this idea of like sacrificing yourself for the sake of material gain. Like, think you sign a contract and you have to go against your morality. You make millions of dollars, but you now feel empty. You now feel like your soul is lesser. And there's something very important to this and important to the modern world. I'm not even saying that like we're ruled by evil entities or anything like that. What I'm saying is like there's going to be decisions that you make in your life that will either bring you in more accordance with yourself, bring you in more accordance with your actual set of values, or you're going to have to sacrifice those values for some sort of gain, and it's never worth
the warrior is one of honor, meaning that preserving honor is more important than preserving one's life. But honor is a complicated and subjective concept, which differs from culture to culture. Roman Catholic missionary Francis Xavier was one of the first Western people to visit Japan, where he arrived in the year 1550. He described how the Japanese valued honor as well as warfare and weaponry. They felt superior to all nations in, and I quote, military glory and valor, and honored everything that concerned war. End quote. More recent accounts tell us about the spirit of Bushido of the Japanese soldiers who fought during the Second World War.
There was actually like a lot of like their honor actually like in some ways led to the downfall because a lot of the samurai would they didn't they didn't die in battle. They felt they like failed, they lost, and they would just hopefully people know what seppuku
For whom
means.
dying for the emperor was the greatest honor. Surrendering to the enemy, however, was considered an act of cowardice. I quote, those who had surrendered to the Japanese, regardless of how courageously or honorably they had fought, merited nothing but contempt. They had forfeited all honor and literally deserved nothing. End quote.
If you've ever seen what is it, Godzilla minus one, the whole like point of the story is that this guy was a kamikaze. He was too much of a coward and he returned and he was like all but shamed. And then the whole story is him trying to redeem himself for this.
At the end of the day, the way we handle
Really,
honor
really good. One
depends
of the
on
best movies I've
personal
seen in
and
like
cultural preferences.
10 years, probably.
If we think that honor is more important than life, then it's worth dying for. But if we don't care about honor, we probably choose to live over the preservation of it. According to Musashi, however, the value of honor exceeded life and death.
What's up, Zachariah? How's everything? Man, you're getting here just as I'm end. Well, I'm gonna end it in probably like 10 minutes, but like just as I'm finishing this video. That's crazy. How's it going though? And it's that saying is I'd rather be hated for who I am than loved for who I'm not. And this is essentially the value he's saying. It's like Musashi's dealing with the idea of death. He's saying that he'd rather die than lose his honor. And this is because he's facing death. Is that if he's a samurai, you know, he could die at any day. Whereas us, it's we die this metaphorical death. We lose what makes us us for the sake of some sort of gain, for the sake of something that is tangible, and we lose our honor for the sake of nothing. It's Dostoevsky's quote: "Your greatest sin is that you have destroyed yourself and betrayed yourself for absolutely nothing." I know Lorival is going to correct me.
Death.
It's that quote.
21. Never stray from the way. The path of the
Just finished
warrior
pressure
is one
washing
of
your
extreme
garage. Oh, nice.
determination,
That's
on
cool.
which there's little room for deviation. Musashi's way was the way of the sword.
Happy, you said it's Happy Saturn Day. Dude, it's so weird how in a supposed Christian nation or Christian society, all of our days are like pagan days. Like Moon's Day, Monday is Moon's Day, Saturday is Saturn's Day, uh Wednesday is um that was Thor's. Father. Odin, Woden's Day. Thursday is Thor's Day. I don't remember what Tuesday is. But all the days they have some sort of like pagan sort of name behind it. It's very weird.
which he dedicated
The same thing with Christmas. Christmas isn't like really the original day. It was moved, and it lines up with the Roman holiday of Alia, which is Saturn. It's like a Saturn festival.
himself to completely and transcended everything else, including life and death. Now, the degree of commitment of those who walk the path of the warrior can be considered extreme, looking at it from a modern Western viewpoint. These days, true commitment seems rare, as most of us are consumers in a throwaway society, going from pleasure to pleasure instead of choosing a more
Once you set your course, you have to follow it, or you're going to feel empty, feel hollow. And it's really what he's saying is when you have a dream, you have to do it. It's like that. It's like that Sinatra song. Regrets I had a few, but too few to mention. And it's something that we need to live our life by because I think really one of the worst things that you could do is live your life not knowing. Live your life not knowing if you were good enough or if something could have happened, but you never found out because you never pursued it. You never found out because you never put yourself out there.
difficult path of sacrifice and restraint at the service of a higher goal, even if this higher goal could be the quality of our own life and well being. But still, if we truly want to get something done, something significant, we have to commit to a certain degree. It's difficult to get any serious work done when we aren't dedicated. This applies to business, relationships, creative.
Um, he's just repeating what we were saying this whole time. Yeah, this was a nice, fun stream. Um, I was gonna say I'm dying, but I'm not. I'm just starving because I really haven't eaten anything yet today. So I'm gonna go do that. Members only stream tomorrow at 1, I think. Hopefully that's okay timing for everybody. And we're going over the marriage of heaven and hell. I don't know the next time I'm gonna be streaming, but it'll. I have more free time, so I should be streaming more frequently. And with that said, have a good rest of your Saturday, guys. Peace out. I'll catch you in the next one. I don't know if I want to win out of Max Holloway or Charles Oliveira, but it's a good fight tonight, so I'm gonna be doing that later. Peace out.